Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into my video. Today we're going to be looking at Sanguine Depths as a healer, Holy Priest. I'm going to kind of go over which talents I took, the mechanics you're going to have to deal with, and I'll probably release another one of these when Mythic Plus comes out, but just this gives you a good idea of how you should feel about this dungeon if you start pushing Mythics when they release. So I'm going to go over the talents, I'm going to go over each boss fight, and just to get started out, let's go over the talents here real quick. So I took Trail of Light, Angelic Feather, Cosmic Ripple, Censor, Prayer Circle, Benediction, and Apotheosis. Now, I think this is a Prayer Circle dungeon. It's for now, obviously. When people get more geared, Prayer Circle is not going to be what you want to take in a dungeon, and I just want to make that clear. Right now, as you're pushing content, first week you want to try and push your keys as high as you can. Your party isn't going to be fully geared to the teeth. They're going to take insane AoE damage from all of these fights. So I think Prayer Circle is what you're going to want to go in here with. Everything else is the same as what I said in my dungeon guide, except I think Renewed Faith might be really good in this dungeon. On the bosses, when all that AoE is going on, if you have Renewed Faith, or if you have your Renew on all of your party members, when you go to use your Prayer Circle, you go to use him, you use Sanctify, you're going to get massive AoE healing off because you're going to have extra 10% healing, and if that crits, it's going to be even bigger. So I think I'm going to try out Renewed Faith next week as my first kind of separation, or trying a different talent. I do want to try out some weirder builds here. Another thing you could definitely change in this dungeon is Guardian Angel. Cosmic Ripple, again, that AoE healing that flips off of it is going to be really good, but Guardian Angel could be super good here as well. So I'm going to start talking about the first boss, and we'll go over each one, and then I'll kind of wrap up the video. Okay, so let's talk about Crixus the Voracious. There's 3 mechanics you need to be aware of as a healer. The first one is Vicious Headbutt. He's going to headbutt the tank, doing massive damage and knocking the tank back. If your tank is not facing towards the wall and not going to be knocked into the wall and get knocked off the edge, you're going to have to Leap of Faith your tank to save his life. Most tanks will probably just go tank this by the wall, it'll be fine, right? The second mechanic you need to be aware of is Juggernaut Rush. Periodically, he's going to pick a target to rush to, and then you need to soak it with your group. If your group doesn't soak it, it's going to one-shot the target. You can save the target with Guardian Spirit or pull them into the group with Leap of Faith, but just be aware of that. It is going to do mad AoE damage to your entire party, or everyone that soaks it, I should say. So that's why I'm taking Prayer Circle. So you can Circle of Healing, or Sanctify, Circle of Healing, Prayer of Healing, heal them all up, and then be ready to just focus on healing the tank because he's probably going to get hit by another headbutt. The final mechanic you need to be aware of is Severing Smash. The boss has an energy bar. When that reaches 100 energy, he's going to cast this ability. It does AoE damage to the entire group, knocks everyone back, and on Mythic it sends out orbs towards every party member. So if someone hits this orb, it's going to do a huge amount of damage to your party, and that's why I'm taking Prayer Circle. The original damage isn't too much, but if one person gets hit by an orb, you could, on a high Mythic Plus key the first couple weeks, you might wipe the entire group just by getting hit by the orb. Lower Mythic Plus keys and just doing Mythics, that's why I'm taking Prayer Circle, just to heal up the group. Now the other talent I'm going to be trying out next week in Mythic is probably Renewed Faith. I think Renewed Faith would be really effective in this dungeon overall, especially for all of the boss fights, keeping it on all of your targets, increasing your AoE heals by 10%, and just giving you kind of a reason to cast Renew. I also am probably going to stick with Benediction, so I'm going to get free Renews on people anyways. So those are the talents and how this fight works out. Let's talk about the second boss, Executor Tarvald. Now, one thing I always try to assume when I'm doing dungeons, even if I'm playing with my friends who I know are pretty good at the game, is they're going to get chipped by mechanics, they're going to mess up mechanics once in a while, and this fight has a lot of damage that just goes out. The first thing you need to be aware of is Castigate. He's going to pick a target, cast Castigate on him. It's going to do damage to them and anyone within an 8-yard radius around them. So this might chip on your melee DPS. If your ranged is stacked, it might chip on them. You're going to get AoE damage hitting them. There's also pools that get left behind when fleeting manifestations die. So they're going to leave this area on the ground you can't stand in, or you're going to take damage. Also, he's going to, while the manifestations are alive, party-wide damage is inflicted to everyone with his debuff called Growing Pride, and he does Sin-Touched Anima. So these orbs of anima fly around the prison. If you touch it, it's going to do damage and give you a debuff for 12 seconds, and it reduces your haste. So do not get hit by these, I guess we should call them tornadoes. They're not really orbs, they're kind of these scary-ass tornadoes that fly around. So there's a lot to deal with on this fight, a lot to heal through. So you have single target damage that everyone's going to take, and you also have the debuff, the Growing Pride, when the fleeting manifestations are alive. You have AoE pools on the ground that you can't step in. You have Castigate doing AoE damage to people. This is a tough fight, but the boss has lower health, so it does end kind of earlier. I'm still sticking with my talent choices for this one, just because of Growing Pride, just because of people accidentally touching a pool on the ground, getting hit by the tornado. Just don't get hit by the tornadoes is my big advice for you. Don't let your haste get reduced. Your healing is going to be heavily impacted, and you should be good on this fight if you're running this talent setup and everyone's doing the mechanics as best as they can. The third boss, Grand Protector Borrelia, is pretty easy. The main thing in her fight is when she reaches 100 energy, she will cast Right of Supremacy, which is going to do big, huge AoE damage to all of the players. But the Naru on top of the balcony is going to send down little yellow orbs that you can pick up. Everyone needs to pick up 3. Everyone will take some damage, but it's going to be minimal as long as everyone gets 3 of the little orbs. Now, she is going to cast Iron Spikes on your tank, which each do a huge amount of damage. She actually casts 4 of them, so you need to be healing your tank, maybe put a Power Word Shield on him and a Mending just to heal him through this, because it is going to do a lot of damage to him. The other thing she does is she will put Agonize on a target, which does damage over 6 seconds. It does a little bit of extra damage to a certain party member. It tends to go on the range from what I've seen on like hunters or mages or warlocks. And then the final thing she does is she will torment the Naru, and the Naru will send down a rain of holy light. It also does a little bit of AoE holy damage as she's doing that, but it's not too bad. Overall, this fight works well with the talents I talked about. As long as everyone's doing the mechanics right, you're going to be okay. The main damage is going to come from the rain and from the dots and the Iron Spikes. Everyone should be able to dodge the Right of Supremacy. Alright, the final fight of Sanguine Depths, General Call. She's also going to be in the raid, so if you're ever looking for a guide on her, make sure that you're looking at the dungeon version or the raid version. After the last fight, the tank is going to take the Naru and put it on his back, and he's going to get an extra ability. He'll create this area of Shining Radiance. You can stand inside it to take 65% less damage. So when Call reaches 100 energy, she casts Gloom Squall, which does a huge amount of shadow damage to the entire party. So your tank needs to use Shining Radiance, the ability from the Naru, and you need to go stand in this. And everyone will still take some damage, but it's not as bad as if you just face tank it without standing in the glowy circle. The next thing she does is she does Wicked Rush. She will dash to 2 targets, I believe, and if she dashes through someone, she will do damage to them as well. She also does an ability called Wicked Gash. She tears into a target doing damage and then inflicting physical damage until the end of the encounter. It's a debuff until the end of the encounter, unless you go stand in the Shining Radiance from the Naru. The last thing she does is Piercing Blur. She creates an image of herself that will dash across the battlefield, and I believe it does knock you back a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, it might not. But when she does that, it inflicts a ton of damage, so you need to, because she's casting so many on Mythic, you need to pre-stand in the next one. They kind of line up together, so you'll see you want to stand in the second one, move back to where the first one was, and let the second one go off to dodge all of them. It's kind of similar to how you want to dodge some of the tentacles in not Theater of Pain, not Necrotic Wake, I can't think of what it's called right now. But again, the talents for this are going to be super important. Wicked Gash is going to do a bunch of dot damage to people to get hit with it. Wicked Rush is going to hit people. Sometimes it's hard to dodge. Gloom Squall is going to do giant burst AoE, even if you are in the Shining Radiance. So this is a really intense fight. There's a lot of damage going on, a lot of mechanics to deal with. but just try to make sure that you're keeping up with the mechanics and just using our AoE heals to keep the party up, because it is going to be rough on the whole party. So those are the 4 bosses of Sanguine Depths. There are some mobs that do a lot of AoE damage in this dungeon as well, especially when you're cutting a General Call at the end to her boss room. You will fight her through mobs to her boss room, and then you have time to reset, drink up, and then do the final boss fight. I really like these talents for this dungeon just because of the amount of damage that the entire party takes. There is a lot more avoidable damage. People are still learning. People are going to get hit by things. People get debuffs on them that you can't really stop. You can maybe dispel a couple of them, but there is a lot of AoE damage, and I like this talent setup. I'm going to be trying out different talent setups. I'm going to be trying different levels of Mythic Plus, seeing what works, what doesn't work. I'm really trying to limit test and see what I like and see how I feel about the Holy Priest. I'm not sure if a SOL would be good in this dungeon. It probably would. I think it's a okay talent now that I've looked at it more and tried it out more than just a couple times. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be trying to put out as much Mythic Plus content as I can. When the raid comes out, I'll put out a guide for every boss, every point of view boss for the Holy Priest, and I actually started leveling my Shaman, so the Shaman guide and Shaman gameplays will be coming soon, so I'll probably stick with those 2 classes for the next couple months. Just trying to pump out content, testing out talents, discussing talents, and maybe hopefully soon I can put some new things into the channel instead of just WoW. I want to create a community to play games with, and I'm thinking about making a Discord. And you can also check out my Twitch. I'll also start streaming here soon. I'm just trying to get YouTube running and see how much time I actually have for Twitch and then set up a schedule. But thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, if you have any input, I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to have a discussion and just talk to you guys. But good luck. This should be a fun dungeon to run in Mythic Plus. We'll have to see how the affixes change everything.